everyone, I'm Kristin Thornton-De, and today I'm going to talk to you about some young adult novels and one memoir on the theme of gender identity. They also feature characters that are either questioning their gender identity or aren't cisgender. So to start off, all of these books I would recommend for about the 14 to 17 age range. My first book is Double Exposure by Bridget Birdsall. This one I would recommend to anyone who's a fan of sports novels, books about sports. Fans of The Crossover by Kwame Alexander, I think, might like this one. What it's about is intersex teen. Her name's Alex. She's being bullied at her school in California. Her mother decides that they're going to move back to her mother's hometown of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And there Alex starts fresh after her father has passed away, another reason why they decide to move. So she starts fresh and she starts playing basketball on the girls' basketball team. This book not only deals with issues of gender identity, being misgendered by your family, but also bullying and mental health, because the bully in this book, Pepper, she's actually going through her own mental health problems where she's not taking her medication. So I think this book is great for those issues, and also the fact that it's very realistic in terms of how the teens go about resolving their problems and handling their issues. I thought it was pretty spot on with some of the behaviors that I've seen of teenagers. So that was one reason why I really liked this book. Next up, we have Pantomime by Laura Lamb. This one's the first in Laura Lamb's Micah Gray series. And this one would be great for anyone who's a fan of fantasy novels, and also any books that have a circus setting, because this one's set at a circus. So maybe anyone who's a fan of the Cirque du Freak series, I think they might like this, though it's a little bit different. And this one's a bit more descriptive. I think some of the language, though it's better for some younger readers, it's sort of similar, the world building, to like the Game of Thrones series, although that's more for adults. This one is about Jean, who is a princess and runs away to the circus and takes on the identity of Micah Gray. This character is also intersex, and I actually have some problems with the way that they handle the character in this book, because the setting is in a circus. I feel like they sort of emphasize the otherness of this character because there are freaks at the circus, and that's an issue that I take with this. Another one is, one quote from the book was, "Exotic tongues and slanted eyes" was one way that they described foreigners in this book, and it seemed a little orientalist and racist to me, so I do take some issue with that. But I think in terms of the themes of dealing with not fitting in and not feeling accepted by your family and society, I think that's a great lesson to take away from this book. And again, it's an interesting fantasy series. So that is Pantomime. Next up, this is my one nonfiction pick. This is a memoir. It's by Katie Rain Hill. It's called Rethinking Normal, a Memoir in Transition. So this is written by Katie Rain Hill, who is a transgender, now 20-something. But when she wrote the book, she was 19, and it was about her experience transitioning from age 15 to 19. So it starts off with her just telling her mother that she wants to transition because she's transgender. So it deals with different experiences, whether it be her buying girls' clothes with her mother, who's very accepting of her journey, all the way up to her gender reassignment surgery. And another interesting thing about this book is that it also focuses on Katie's relationship with Arin Andrews, who is another transgender memoir author. And Arin Andrews wrote Some Assembly Required, which is about his experience transitioning, and also reflects on their relationship, because they were both advocates in this advocacy group in Oklahoma for the transgender community. And their relationship was being discussed in the media a lot because they were really well-known activists within that community. So I think, aside from the descriptions of the transition, I think it's also important because she includes lots of resources on anyone who's thinking about transitioning, and for transgender teens. And also it's great not just for teens who are thinking about transitioning, but also for teens in general, because she gives resources and tips for talking to transgender teens and being comfortable talking to them so that, you know, the language that you're using isn't offensive. So she talks about pronouns that you should use, different language, things like that. So this is a really great resource. Next up, I have Symptoms of Being Human by Jeff Garvin. This is another novel. This is centered around a gender-fluid teen, Riley Kavanaugh, whose father is a congressman in, I believe, California. And Riley's therapist suggests that Riley create an anonymous blog online talking about what it's like to be a gender-fluid teenager. And there are some complications with that down the line. Riley's bullied by some people in their school, but also online, and even by some of Riley's friends also bully them. So it discusses issues of bullying, of what it's like to be a gender-fluid teenager, but it also goes over, you know, the pressures of family issues when your family isn't accepting of who you are. And it also deals with some mental health issues because Riley's friend, Beck, has a mother who's dealing with depression. And so they talk about that. But also Riley suffers from anxiety and panic attacks. So that's discussed in the book. And then some other issues are suicide. They discuss that. So overall, I think this is a really great book, especially for someone who is interested in learning more about gender-fluid identity. And this gives a really thorough description of that. And in addition, Jeff Garvin is really careful about the language that he uses to describe Riley. He does not use any pronouns to refer to Riley, and he never talks about the gender that Riley was assigned at birth. So I think that was really great. And it's not awkward the way that he does it. Like, this is written very well. Lastly, I have Jess Chunk and the Road Trip to Infinity. This is by Kristin Elizabeth Clark. What I love about this book is that it's about a transgender teen, but the entire focus isn't about their, you know, journey of transitioning. The focus is not on them being transgender. That's, you know, a part of their identity, but this is a great example of diverse literature of representing the transgender community in a way that isn't simply about, you know, their gender. So I think this is a way of normalizing the transgender identity, and I think it will be great for transgender teens who want to see themselves represented in literature, but in a way that's not just about, you know, people asking questions about their identity. So this book is more about Jess's relationship with her father, because she's taking a road trip out to Chicago to her father's new wedding. And she's taking the road trip with her friend Chunk. So it also talks about their relationship because Jess is developing feelings for her best friend. So it talks about that, and also dealing with the struggles of divorce since her parents are divorced. So yeah, so I think this is a really great one. I think teens who like road trip books, such as Paper Towns by John Green, and also Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Morgan Matson, I think they might like this book. So that's about it for all of my books on gender identity. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you might think about using some of these books, or even recommending them, or buying them for your collection. So, thank you, I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you next time.